train. Let's go. Lines in the sand, welcome to the front row. Real life hitting, everybody wanna know. When the spin get thick, who cuts through the chain? AK, David Drew stepping into the frame. Late nights, Dukes in the dirt. From the grind to the house, to the scarf, to the grease stain shirts. Parents, pay fight for what's true. From the clinic to the warehouse, to your living room. Headlines screaming, but we ain't scared. Faith in our bones, yeah, we can't prepare. Culture war is unchanged. Where the real ones meet the rage. Where the truth cuts through the noise. Every voice on the stage. Culture war is unchanged. From the heartland to your brain. If you're tired of the script, we're here to break the chain.
Welcome back to Culture Warriors Unchained. I am David Webster, the Peruvian gentleman, and it is April 20th, 2026. And at this point, I'm starting to think the robots are coming. Or actually, I'm not starting to think they're coming. I think they're already here, and I think they're doing better than us. We got robots winning battles in Ukraine, robots setting world records in half marathons, which is great because I'm pretty sure half of the century can't even run to their mailbox right now. Half of the people living right now. It's crazy out there. Meanwhile, Disney is laying off people and Hollywood is losing tens of thousands of jobs, which is what tends to happen when you spend years lecturing the public about what they should and shouldn't believe and what we should and shouldn't teach our children. And just to round it out, we have celebrities telling us to befriend AI like we're living in Black Mirror or something worse. But we're going to get into that, and we're going to hopefully sort all this out with our guest, Brady O'Neill, who is currently running for state senate here in Minnesota. This is Culture Warriors Unchained, and I'm going to kick it over to one of my two co-hosts, Drew Outstanding and AK Kamara. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves, gentlemen?
At the same time?
Yes.
I'll go first.
No, you're right. Drew, please begin.
Drew Outstanding.
We're not
what is
professionals.
going on? Your local, actually also Army Aviation with our guest. So, yep, veteran Army, both Minnesota and nationally with Third ID. And now I'm a speaker, event planner, consultant, and adaptive sports competitor. And I talk on here every Monday. So that's me, and I'm excited for the show.
My name's AK Kamara. I'm actually the Republican National Committee man for the state of Minnesota. Basically, I'm the part of this podcast that is trying to encourage people to get actively involved in Republican Party politics. If you find that you like the Republican Party, you like President Trump, you like making America great again, you like America first, or if you just think that the left has gone too far to the left and you don't like Marxism, I'm the guy that's like, yeah, you should join the Republican Party or at least consider it. But I'm also here to show that, like, you don't have to be like a weirdo, like suit wearing stuffy person. Like, if you like to wear suits and you can make it look good, more power to you. That's not really my jam. I can wear a suit. I can look good in a suit, but I'm just like a normal dude that likes to talk about, politics, culture, sports. I mean, shout out to the Wild taking down the North Stars, former North Stars, Dallas Stars in the first round. And hopefully Timberwolves can pull it off tonight. But ultimately, make sure that you guys, if you like the podcast, you hit the like button, share it. We are streaming live right now on Rumble, on Facebook, on YouTube. Make sure that you guys follow us wherever it is that you consume your podcast. And then always after the podcast is live, we will put it up wherever podcasts are available. Also, lastly, make sure that you guys drop your comments during the stream. We will read it live. And without further ado, kick it back and over to our guest, Mr. Brady O'Neill. Tell the people who you are, what you do.
Well, first of all, thank you all gentlemen for having me. This is very fun and a great honor. I am 26 years old. I am a licensed elevator mechanic in multiple states. I'm a college dropout, but currently I go to college at the U of M studying chemical engineering. There I'm involved with the Minnesota Supercomputing Institute. I am undergraduate student government. I am on the All University Honors Committee. I sing choir at the Basilica of St. Mary, and I'm running for our state senate here to try to represent myself and other people like me. I think things have been getting worse. And as opposed to complaining, I think it's time we just try to do something about it. And that's what I'm here to do today.
Love it.
Outstanding. We like to hear that. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to stop saying absolutely. I took those studio notes. But we're going to jump into the first story here. Robots. So we got a couple of our angles we're going to go at. So we're going to kind of combine two different stories we have here. But we're going to start off, AM, if you want to shout out AM, our producer in the back. If you want to throw up that ground news article coming out of the Ukraine over the week. It actually happened last Monday while we were chit-chatting with each other here. But once we get that uploaded, let me see here. Otherwise, I can grab it.
You got something up.
So, perfect. All right. AM, we're I'm not sure what that is.
You got to click on procedure.
Hold on, let me.
There.
Yeah, right. All right. There it is. All right. So, Zelensky alleges military robots captured Russian battlefield positions. And from what I understand, this has been confirmed. But on Monday of last week, we were doing our show, President Vladimir Zelensky announced that Ukrainian forces captured a Russian position using only ground robots and drones, marking this the first unmanned only assault without infantry participation or casualties in the conflict. During remarks with Arms Makers Day, Zelensky noted that the Ukrainian robotic systems include Realtel, Tyr, MIT, and Voyola, completed more than 22,000 missions in 3 months, operating in hazardous areas instead of soldiers. Anyone who's seen Terminator 2 or Battlestar Galactica, any of the shows where we fight robots and it doesn't go well, should be a little concerned about this. But I want to get some feedback from my co-hosts and our guests. When you hear this and you see that this is obviously the future of warfare, this is where it's going, how you feeling about it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we're already there. It's just wild that 20 years ago, like, it was sci-fi movies. And now it is like, what did that say? Unmanned attack, ground attack. And I'm like, I've never heard that phrase before. It's usually boots on the ground. And now it's what? Metal feet, feet on the ground, metal phalanges or whatever the feet version is. Yeah.
Metatarsals.
Tarsals. That's what I was kind of going.
The future is here. The future is now.
But it's
AK,
it's
you
just
love
wild.
robots.
I mean,
I just
listen. I
don't
think robots
get
are
it.
cool,
But it's just they're taking over everything. And when somebody used to say that, it was ha ha, funny, that'll never happen. And we'll get into more AI later. But I'm tracking how many times I'm getting called on my phone by a robot, and it's like I didn't ask for this call, and it's from like the VA or my mechanic or whatever. And I'm like, why do I need to talk to robots every day? And then I've been trying not to pay attention to what's going on in Iran, but it's very difficult because it's changing constantly. I really just look at the stock market and can tell whether we're controlling the Strait of Hormuz or not. Anyways, but yeah, it's it feels like everything's taken a shift, and we're just already there in the not so distant future. And it's just like, and we don't really know, like, how do we go about it? It's like, how should we even think about it? But that's why we have this show. What do you think, AK?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I like robots. I think it's interesting to imagine what does the future of war look like if we're having robots fighting robots. I mean, if you just understand, like, why do humans like go to war? Well, before is because, like, if you didn't have a good land for your people, like, you're gonna starve to death. And so these battles for land, and to say, like, we have access to water, we have access to good soil, it literally meant that your people live or die. But that's not really where we're at I would say as a species, really, for the majority of people. Controlling land seems to be relatively less significant, especially because we have such a globally connected economy where, listen, you can live in sub-Saharan Africa and you can receive food through many different avenues in ways that you get food that would never grow where you live. I mean, just here in the United States, clearly, we can get avocados in the winter, and we live in Minnesota. We don't got avocado trees rolling around in Minnesota. And so it does change the interesting dynamic. And of course, before the robots enter the battlefield equation, we still needed humans to actually go and, seize certain territories to stop people from acting in ways that we don't want them. Think Iraq, Afghanistan, and all of that. But now if you're talking about introduction of drones and actual like hominoid or humanoid types of robots that are going to go do that for you, I guess that's good, because at least human beings don't have to die in such large numbers. But at the same time, it's like our robots are fighting each other, and we're humans were just going to kind of like, okay, well, now you've conquered this land, but robots are there. And then I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know what the end game is, other than potentially we have a off-planet interstellar type of expansion of the human species. And then like, I guess the robots can go do like all the terraforming and dangerous stuff. And then humans can just kind of live in luxury, and we don't maybe fight as much because it's like, okay, well, your robot killed my robot, I guess, or whatever. But yeah, man, it's super fascinating. I'm curious about your perspective on this, Brady. You are back in school. You're obviously running to be a representative here in Minnesota. And these are real issues that, like today, or not today, but a couple of weeks ago, there was a conversation about a bill, and it actually had bipartisan support to basically put the stops and the brakes on autonomous driving rideshare vehicles and also commerce vehicles in the state of Minnesota, to study it and better regulate it so it doesn't take the jobs of people that are in that industry. So I'm kind of curious your perspective. I know that war is kind of off the topic, but in general, what's kind of your prospect on robots, man, and in their introduction to so many things that humans have been doing for, since we've been around?
Oh yeah, there's a lot there. And this particular story where they're using robots in war, it's very interesting, but not a great surprise. I think everybody knew that this would happen. What's interesting to me when I think about it is if robots are fighting robots, it becomes a pure battle of attrition, like who can make more robots, but also how we are scheduling these robots in war, the tactics, that's also driven through a machine. A machine makes those up too. The robots technology, they're completely ingrained into our lives. I mean, how many people do you know could drive to Target without their GPS, right? I think 60% of our nation is white collar. All of those jobs can be taken by a robot today. And so it is very scary to think about that moving forward. Now, that being said, I'm incredibly pro AI. I use it a lot. I think it's super useful and makes things way more efficient. But when we have a populace of people where if you were to take their jobs away, they could contribute nothing to keep humanity going, right? They can't grow food, they can't harvest game, they can't lead people, they can't build things, they can't fix things. And you take their job away from a robot, I mean, what does that leave? 60% of people. And so what I think we need is leaders who understand that there's more to our life, our society than money, than progress, that humanity is why we do this, but also to recognize why technology is a good thing, I think is what we need out of our leaders.
100%. Now, I just kind of as a side caveat,
That's a reasonable take.
Who remembers Real Steel with Hugh Jackman?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't see it, but I'm aware. Yeah.
Right. So like the premise of the movie is that Hugh Jackman, used to, I think, I don't know what his backstory is, but he ends up being like a trainer. And maybe David, you're shaking your head, so maybe you know the backstory. But like basically,
he's a washed-up alcoholic boxer, but that's such a weird. That's such a weird example. That movie was.
But just hear me out. Hear
Whatever.
me out, right?
Go with it. Let's hear it.
When that movie came out, I was like, "This is lame. Why would I care? Why would anyone care about watching a human pilot a robot that are boxing each other that you suffer like no damage from or whatever?" So like, it's like, oh, who has the better robot? If you have heart and you have will, you're going to be able to, like, no, it's a robot. It's like whatever the highest performing machine is. And sure, there might be variables of like the ground moves a little bit, or, maybe one of the motors or servos doesn't react as fast or whatever. But by and large, it's just going to be like, who has just like the better robot. I didn't see anything compelling about that story. So it's, to me, you take away that human element. Are you guys interested in watching the robot wars fight each other? I mean, I get it. There's like a whole genre of people that watch robot wars back in the day, the little robots would fight each other, but it's just not my jam.
BattleBots. Yeah. And no,
I mean,
it's
interesting.
really
That's college student
wild.
engineers designing fighting robots. That's not like they're not fighting over anything like land resources. Human life is not involved in that. Whereas this situation, depending on what the Russians were using, it was robots versus people. And yeah, I have a little bit of an issue with that. I think that it kind of reminds me. I'm going to put on my nerd hat for a minute. My mother was big into Star Trek. It wasn't my jam entirely, but I do remember this one episode where they go to this planet where they're doing like engaged in like essentially digital virtual war with each other. And like if somebody virtually bombs a building, all these people have to go and like go into these incinerators, and it's like civilized warfare. And the whole point of the episode is like that's not how we should live, because like war has a cost, and it's why you try to avoid it. I think if we're doing this where war doesn't necessarily have a cost, or the cost is super one-sided because let's say your side has all the robots, I think we're going to see people using it for really a lot of the wrong reasons. The other thought I had, and you guys, I genuinely want your take on this because I was thinking about this over the weekend, is this almost, it's like proof of concept, because with the Iran war, they keep talking about, we're not going to get anywhere unless we do an actual on the ground regime change. And there's no way to accomplish that without boots on the ground previously. But now with this Ukraine battle, we've established the potential that you can secure an area, right, and then fortify it and keep it using just drone and robot technology. And obviously Iran's a little different monster because of the mountains and the terrain, and, getting signal and data feeds might be difficult. But, depending on how long this drags out, do you guys see the potential of, obviously we have better technology than the Ukrainians do as far as drones, I would assume, and robots.
But where does the
What do you guys
technology
think about
come
that?
from? So it's going to come
Right.
from like tax dollars. So taxes come from typically our labor, if not, just borrowing more against the national debt and kind of what have you. So that will make the technology more in order to send it over there. But then also you have companies, Tesla, Sky, what is it? The internet version, Skylink. I'm messing that one up, but Starlink. There you go.
Starlink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm mixing that up with the T1000, Skynet,
Skynet.
Skynet, and Scar.
For all we know, Starlink is Skynet.
Well, that's what I
just
mean.
hasn't
It's all
achieved sentience
going
yet.
together.
Yeah.
You brought up Real Steel. That was like a concept that somebody wrote out in a screenplay, and then obviously along the line they threw in a bunch of comedy and character backstory and stuff like that, and then you get this final product that's nothing like the original, kind of story, but it has to appeal to an audience. But it's so interesting that the worlds are just coming together like that. But yeah, it's going to be or America versus Iran, or Ukraine and Russia, or what all these things are. And it's just who's going to have the most technology, the most up to date, the most updated one, like system update. Be like, and then what? And I think AK you dove into that we've already covered all the land on Earth. It used to be 200 years ago. Like people think like, when America was founded, it was just like one country that just founded America, or England, type thing. But it was France, it was Portugal, it was all these countries that were trying to do these Louisiana Purchase, and they're always trying to get like pieces, and the Canada part, and Mexico was most of it as well. And that people like look back and be like, oh, that was just that one thing and came over and colonized. Like, no, the whole world that was fighting for pieces of America, and then it was just a matter of different deals over the course of like 100 years or so until it finally kind of broke into there. But yeah, I'm getting confused by all of it, but it's also making costs go up. So like I took my cousin I was going to get him a candy bar or whatever, and you go to the gas station, candy bars are $5. He got this little sucker with a Ninja Turtle thing, $5, and now taxes like what, 8 something in Minnesota. So it's like, oh, cool. This little thing that when I was a kid was a quarter is now $5. But that's going to encourage us to continually to work. So we need money to pay for these inflated prices. But at the same time, like you said, Brady, our jobs are kind of getting useless in a way. We don't want to deal with robots and AI to make transactions or whatever to go about things, I'm getting so tired of trying to get something done and talking to an AI or saying that my call is going to be transcribed, or do I want to go to text or wait, 20 minutes, wait on hold for an hour, or, go back to doing what I was doing for 20 minutes and then text back and forth with an AI. I don't understand it. I'm getting a little
I want to first just a couple of comments. Shout out to John Ball. First said, love the movie, obviously talking about Real Steel, and then says Star Trek always had a moral compass to show humanity at its best in every episode. There was always a situation where you could go the wrong way, but they always did it the best way possible for moral and good outcome. And I think that is something that Gene Roddenberry was really, really good at trying to showcase, like these complex things of what the future looks like when you have like basically elimination of scarcity for, the Federation and for a lot of the other organizations because of technology. But then you would come across these planets that were, basically like us now, or even like, prehistoric type, and those kind of like moral questions. So kind of along those lines and still staying with the robots, I think that this is part of a natural conversation that occurs. Elon Musk posted universal high income via checks issued by the federal government is the best way to deal with unemployment caused by AI. AI robotics will produce goods and services far in excess of the increase in the money supply, so there will not be inflation. And I think that this is part of this larger conversation. As you talk about robots fighting wars for us, and basically humans don't have to sacrifice their literal lives, and as you have that conversation about like what are we fighting for if we have so much basically abundance of goods and services, then basically you have to confront this issue. What happens when people, like you were alluding to, Brady, that 60% of America is white collar? What happens when those jobs get wiped out? So I think that this is part of the conversation. And myself as like a free market capitalist, and back to the question or comment I should say about morality, how do you encourage all of humanity or the majority of humanity to still go and be good, productive people when they physically don't have to actually do anything to earn their labor? And I don't know how we solve for that. I'm just kind of curious, Brady, if that's ever something that you've contemplated or considered, or if you're like, yeah, man, that's just not my cup of tea to ponder and pontificate about.
Oh no, it is the question, right? Because we as humans develop technology so that our lives become easier. And the thought with like automation was always we're going to have to work less, So, but you're right. The fact of how do we continue to keep people working hard to have standards in spite of not having to work for them is something we don't understand. That tweet regarding the universal basic income, I think that sounds nice, but I think we would experience some of the shortcomings. Those being people don't work as much. I don't agree with him saying that there wouldn't be inflation, but it's tedious waters we have to walk around, because inevitably that's where it's coming, where we're going to have a bunch of people that don't really have to do anything to work, and we don't want those people to die, and we want to encourage people to have families and continue to grow, but things are completely different than the way that they've been. And we are all on the pioneers of this new realm that we're entering as the human species. And so I think it's important to give each other grace, to be intelligent, to have backbones, and to think big for the future.
100%.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the unemployment rate right now, and it's about to pop up if I think it's in the background. Can I show it? I don't know. But 4.3% national average. And then, so it's been a decrease, I guess, from 4.4 last month or a couple months ago. So the Dakotas are more like 2.2, but there's not a lot of people there. But what got me
man,
was,
come on, man. Shout out to North Dakota, the land of my people.
Compared to California, where we're looking at, 5.4%. Same with Delaware, District of Columbia, 6.7.
North Dakota's cold.
How is DC have a 6.7 unemployment? But yeah, between that and, like you said, with the universal basic income, it's just it's wild. I don't know where we go from all this. I know it will be a lot of mergers and acquisitions. So if people do get laid off or there's less need for certain industries, certain areas, or about to go into Hollywood, that type of thing, then it's going to shift everything. Catering companies, costumes, all these things that when people go to work, they need other businesses. And it's just there's not going to be a demand there. So those businesses will go away. Yeah, there's going to be more in robotics, in AI, data centers. I think you need it would help to have nuclear to power these data centers, water. It's going to be a lot of resources. So maybe that's going to be the next thing is we're going to go after water. I've been hearing that for like 10 years is water is going to be the next real natural resources that people are going to fight for, clean water. And there's been a ton of movies made about that too. I don't know. It's scary, but I think a lot of people don't even want to think about it.
I think what scares people is our increase in power, right? Because we have this potential to do so much good, but we also see when people go the other way, and that's what's scary about it. And we know the history, right, of people doing wrong to one another. Where we're standing at a corner here where we could say we could eliminate toil, we could all live in harmony, socialist utopian paradise is theoretically there, but we know that there's challenges that make it more nuanced than that, and that's what makes us scared about it.
All right, what about the half marathon? We got now.
I was going to say let's see what else robots are taking from us. Yeah, we got the fighters. What else are we doing?
No, I pulled up this story just because I think it's another part of this puzzle, and just to help people understand, man. I mean, I run into people all the time. They're like, "Oh man, that's like the future. Like, I don't have to worry about that." Like millennials are like, "Oh, that's going to be like my grandkids or whatever." And it's like, no, like if you have drones, automated warfare already occurring, and then now we're talking about the introduction of battlefield literal humanoid robots, and then we have this story that kind of again dovetails pretty nicely on the capacity of what our technology can do. When you start to see that we have humanoid robots, and I'm going to throw the story up for those of you that didn't see this, you have humanoid robots that are literally breaking the world record for running a half marathon. That's what occurred, and this was in China. So an autonomous robot ran the company Honor ran a half marathon in 50 minutes 26 seconds, beating the human record by 7 minutes. So like you guys remember those like initial commercials and even viral videos where people are like abusing the robots, like kicking them, and they're like finding their stability. I mean, the fact that you can have a robot run a half marathon means that it has the capacity to chase you, man. We're talking about China, man. They were welding people's houses shut during COVID, man. And now you're going to have the robots chasing you down, grabbing you. My point, though, largely, all jokes aside, is that this is where we are at. I mean, the fact that you can have robots that can go into a battlefield, robots that can run, that clearly have enough stamina. I mean, 50 minutes, I guess, isn't a super long time, but how many people right now in the world could run a half marathon without like keeling over and dying? Probably not a lot. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this is where we are right now of what's being publicly displayed. So like, this is something we have to be able to get a grasp on, and we can't just like keep poo-pooing it and being like, oh yeah, man, that's going to be for the future for my grandkids. Just a couple other pieces. The robot was developed by Chinese company Honor, which finished the 13.1 mile race in 50 minutes. The human record was set by Ugandan Olympic medalist Jacob Kiplimo, and it's 57 minutes, 20 seconds. It's an impressive milestone, especially considering that just a year earlier, the fastest robot at this half marathon event took 2.5 hours to complete. Wow. An hour they shaved off from going just super slow to beating human record. And again, that just kind of shows you. So just again, I wanted to bring the story up.
That's just like a bike or a car or an airplane. They're comparing it to humans. It's like comparing apples to robotic apples. Like it's ridiculous. And it's only going to compound faster, you know, every day. Just do you remember computers in the 90s, Windows 95 and stuff? and they were like, what, $3,000 for a personal computer at home, and we were actually like buying them. That was crazy. Now you can get a NASA level laptop for $200 at Walmart or what, you know what I mean?
Took 4 men and a horse just to move that thing into your house.
I
was
know.
so heavy. Yeah.
And this is all done in basically like the last 100 years, like before World War I. And it obviously goes right to like we come up with or somebody comes up with the stuff, usually non-government entity, then government gets a hand of it, and then we find ourselves in some kind of war. And then they're using, basic airplanes, and then they're using faster airplanes, and then jet fighters, and then the whatever ones in Top Gun that they're 6th generational war fighters. I don't know.
They
Let's move on. I'm getting scared. I have nightmares.
Well, my big thing with this, is like human beings, right? And I can't speak for all human beings, but it's like a lot of the men that I know, I'll speak to the men.
Men, human beings.
We do better under pressure. We do better, right, when we have something in front of us we have to achieve, right? There's an obstacle to overcome, there's a hurdle. And I'm not saying that women don't have that. I can't speak to that because I'm not a woman. And unlike the left, I'm not going to pretend that I am, just for some brownie points or to win an argument. But like human beings in general, right? Like when we were like the Renaissance era, right? Any of those times throughout human history where we moved forward as a group, or you had individuals achieving, greatness in the face of like insurmountable obstacles, like that's what makes us, that's part of what makes us who we are, here on the, depending on what you believe, before we get to heaven. And I just look at that and, once we have robots doing anything difficult, who are we going to become as people, right? What are we going to be, or who are we going to become? And I think that's the question I wrestle with, right? If we're taking the price of war out of, taking the human cost out of the price of war, or the training, any of that sort of stuff, to be like an athlete, that's what I look at. But you're right, we should move on because terrifying to think about.
But yeah, it does have an impact now on our employment, like we already talked about, and directly with Hollywood. Like, yeah. So let's pull up that first article that you have.
AM, you want to throw up the Disney news?
Yeah, and I pay attention to pop culture and just keep hearing more and more. And these it's just going down in every industry, and people just act like it's not really happening, but you're seeing it in the quality. That yours, David?
Yes. So this is directly from Vulture. Disney fired 1,000 employees last week. And so here in this first article, they have a concept artist was laid off under a mural he designed for Marvel Comics executives, and they let him go leading up after helping the company for 2 decades and unceremoniously nuking the home entertainment publicity team. Let's see, these were among the thousands or so individual indignities visited upon the Walt Disney Company's workforce this week. No layoff is easy, but new CEO Josh DeArmo's that name. His first bloodbath, which aims to streamline our operations per his leaked memo on the decision. It does leave a fallout pattern that indicates the way of the winds are blowing at the company. And like we were talking about with AI and everything, how many things can they streamline with technology to where they don't have to have people do it anymore. But yeah, and then there's the limitation and the reduction in the parks and things that are going on as well. But Drew, you have some other stuff that you wanted to throw in with this that kind of ties into Disney gutting its company, gutting itself.
Yeah, and it's a lot. Disney's been going through these mergers and acquisitions. Oh, they've been acquiring a lot of IPs, intellectual property, over the past 10, 20 years. And that's what Bob Iger was the last CEO. And he's been in and out of CEO chair with Disney a couple times now. So be careful right now. When Bob Iger leaves Disney, it means tough things might be on the way. Because the last time he did this was during COVID. And so he leaves on this like high note-ish, and then Bob Chapek, was he the other one? The two different Bobs, like Office Space.
Yeah, he took over
Rather
for a short.
than-
Yeah, so he comes in.
He was the
and they
numbers
just
guy.
Seemed like an acting one, and then everything just kind of went down, along with every other industry during COVID. And so he kind of took the brunt of it. And then he even kept his own office with his own shower and everything like that while he left Disney, and then came back in a couple of years ago and be like, I'm back and I'm figuring things out. And not really, because if you've seen the MCU, Star Wars, it's kind of all been down from there. But yeah, they're cutting a lot, and it's not going to be a good sign. Kathleen Kennedy also
What sucks is Chapek was a good CEO.
Yeah,
because he was a numbers guy, so he looked
numbers
at all the
guy,
DEI stuff
made
and
things
said,
make
nobody wants
sense.
this. Nobody's buying these movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas Bob,
Yep.
I'm going to mix these guys up. Iger, he was just buying things. So he was buying all these billion-dollar properties, and it's like, oh, we're just going to own everything, and it's not working out because there's not going to be a demand for it, especially when they replace good quality things with just garbage and less creativity. And this is on top of all the different strikes over the past couple of years, the unions. Yep. We need to get some positive notes, but yeah, so that's a couple of the ideas what's going on here. I could talk about this one for hours.
What I'm most curious about, right? When, again, not to like bring it back to robots, but this is a part of like how we see this changing economy with not just the way that we do war, not just the way that we communicate with each other, the way that we travel, but now with the way that we consume our entertainment and media. And I'm curious, with these Disney layoffs and firings, are we seeing, I guess, truly the beginning waves of AI wiping out a lot of this? Or is this more or less that just the consumer is just tired with Disney's like just continuation of holding on to content that people don't really want by and large? Or is it more that we have just so much, media has become so decentralized. There's so many streaming platforms. There's so many shows that people are just like, there's too much for me to consume. And so kind of like maybe it expanded so large. And this is kind of like the natural contraction of having like a million different streaming services with a million different programs. I'm just kind of curious, even just your guys' perspective. What do you think is happening leading to these layoffs? And maybe the first story kind of went into what people were claiming was kind of leading the front edge of why these layoffs were occurring.
People are craving authenticity, creativity. If it's there, people will buy it. Just like people are listening to our show, our new show that's kind of getting going right now. People are craving real opinions based on things that we're interested in, that we're not just doing it for clicks and money. And if it's there, people will pay for it. People are going to live events a lot more now, rather than, just buying things, buying stuff, downloadable music as much. So it's like people are paying for $200 tickets to concerts or $6,000 with Taylor Swift or even Morgan Wallen for that matter. Like it's just getting crazy. So people will pay for it if you give them something. But yeah, so we got right here, another article, 51,000 jobs in the industry. And like I said, it's a compounding thing from the caterers, the costume designers. You got this dilemma where they're trying to, cut money, but also make a good product. And it doesn't work all at once. Like when you just make it go like really quick, there's a pulling off the Band-Aid, or it's just a whiplash type deal. And then that will make people leave. And so, yeah, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but yeah, one comparison is how TV shows used to be. They used to be 21, 24 episodes. It would kind of go along the farm and school season. So like September to May is you would have this pretty much like 13 episodes, weekly episodes right away. They'd film, and they would kind of film as they're going. And put them out, and we'd get to know these characters, and there'd be a good episodic. Think X-Files, and even later on Breaking Bad and everything. And then they take a break during Christmas holidays during that time and give people a chance to spend time with family. Then they jump back in January, and then take a break in the summer and then really fine tune it. But now they're fine tuning like crazy and trying to listen to what everybody is talking about on the internet, and then make these changes. And like I said, like that whiplash, and it's just not going well. And yeah, it released everything. Brady, what do you do for entertainment? What are you into as far as pop culture, and has it been declining?
Oh, good question. These
You're
days,
more of a Renaissance guy. It seems like you jump in all these certifications. Where do you have fun? Tell us about where you have fun.
Fun. Yeah, these days I don't have a lot of time for fun, which is both a good and a bad thing. But when I do have free time, I love to fish. I'm a hunter. I have camped many times. In fact, the summer when I was 22, I slept outside every weekend. Camped across Colorado without a phone, using just a map and a compass. Used to play semi-pro football. In terms of media, I don't really watch shows. I've never been a guy who's able to sit through like a Netflix series. I do like some good movies, some classic movies. Never seen.
So you're younger, but you like a classic, which is probably
Yeah.
like 90s, 80s, and stuff like that, which we like as millennials. I can say. And yeah, the latest ones. So even talking about this, the current program, getting back into politics, was expanded under Gavin Newsom. Increases funding made from credits. So they get these federal credits, and then they can give money to Hollywood. And then it just gets it along for a little bit, just enough for that next quarter for it to look good for the stockholders. And then, yeah, it's not long-term. So yeah, like I keep saying, it's wild. These industries are merging and on the downward rather than going upward the last, 70 years since post World War II.
And I want to throw out to Kathleen Quist has a comment. Shout out to Kathleen. This is good for content creators and YouTube in regards to like Disney laying off all these people. And like I said, our true, like everything is becoming decentralized. Like with the gig economy, right? That is a decentralization of services, of how deliveries can be made, where it's not just, you got to go to a place that's within walking distance or driving distance. It's like, well, now you can just chill at the crib and you can have food brought to you. And then also you don't need to necessarily invest in buying a car or paying for insurance. You can use rideshare. The same thing is happening when we talk about our entertainment and how it's no longer just like a handful of really popular studios that are producing content. And I think that kind of even bleeds into what you were saying, Drew. Back in the day, you could have one studio that's going to produce a 24 episode season. But the problem is that there's so many different studios that I don't think any actors, very few actors are going to commit to these long amounts of film time when they can like be on 4 different shows and they do 8 episode seasons. And then they might take a year to produce a season. So that might be like a solid like month of filming. And then you can go and bounce and do something else and have a totally different type of deal. But I do think that having content creators on all these different platforms, YouTube, that can create compelling, if you want to say entertainment, whether it's learning about something, whether it's about even watching commentary, is very, very fascinating. And I'm curious from your perspective, Brady, again, from just like a legislative standpoint, are there things that you think could be done or that need to be done to kind of make safeguards for protecting these types of jobs and roles? Or are you more of like, let's just make sure that we understand what the scope is and what the impact's going to be? I'm just kind of curious.
Well, let's hear what Brady has to say that relates to this video. So let's hear Sandra Bullock talk about the AI, and you can kind of combine it.
Sandra, is it weird that people are using AI to create fake trailers with your image?
Well, there could be worse with my image. I haven't seen it, but I've seen the AI. I mean, of me and my kids, and we're laughing so hard. I'm like, I'm so sorry because I've hidden their faces for so long, but just what they've chosen. I'm like, I'm so sorry. It's like, I'm sorry. I said, but it's it's here. We have to observe it. We have to understand it. We have to lean into it. We have to use it in a really constructive and creative way. Make it our friend rather than. I mean, we have to be incredibly cautious and aware of it because there are people who will use it for evil and not good. But I do feel that there's a place for it. I wish mine were better. I wish there was just like, I see mine, I'm like, that's good, but I think, but it's here. We have to just befriend
Acknowledge
in
it and
some
understand
dark
it.
way. Yeah.
What do you think, Brady? Especially related to government regulations and diving into AI like that.
I think I agree with what you said broadly. It is something we have to embrace. It will not go away. If we, as a society here in America, want to say we don't need that, this is contrary to our way of life, the Chinese aren't going to do that. And I think it's actually a good thing that America be on top of the AI game over China, which is somewhat tricky to get around because we know it's doing these things. But legislatively, yeah, we need to impose restrictions. We need to write rules for its implementation, for who can use it. I saw recently there was a bill coming out that's talking about restricting minors from using AI. And I think that's an excellent idea because as we look at it now, like a high school diploma isn't worth a whole lot. And now we have it so that kids can just go in there and chat GPT the whole thing. So they learn literally nothing, right? And even now, kids use that in school. Kids use iPads on instead of notebooks. In college, I'm one of the only people that uses a notebook. And so these people who are going to get useless jobs the whole way along the way, they're getting useless training. And I don't think that's good. I don't think that's indicative or forthcoming of a more healthy and prosperous society.
Yeah, you're right. But it's just like, who's going to write the bills? Is it going to be Chuck Schumer and, and
right.
or is it going to be like their, clerks and stuff like that? But then it's like, that's a deep state. Where are they going to lean into this? But then are they going to be influenced by, like, it's going to be wild to think like how these restrictions and it's like, yeah, you could say no for minors, but they got to be using it for school, and for this. I remember the longest time we were told not to plagiarize, like do not, copy this. You have to take what the book says and mash it around and try to put your own spin on it and do filler, things. And when I was in college 10 years ago, it was oh my gosh, 15 years, almost 20. It is almost 2007 to 2010. But yeah, it was like they would send it through software. And this was, I think, early on in it. And they'd say like, okay, you're reusing 13% or something like that. And if it got too high, you had to defend it. And it's like, all right, what do you want me to do? While the teacher goes and just sends it through their stuff and has it graded or has their TA do it. Yeah, we're in a weird state. And I didn't think that we're going to talk about this in depth tonight, but yeah, it's all
teachers together. They write their messages, like their lesson plans, with AI. Textbooks are AI written, right? And very interesting point you raised about like who's going to make these rules. I too don't trust the Chuck Schumers in the deep state, but even setting all those people aside, there is somewhat of a moral divide in this country right now. And so if one side said this is moral rules, we need to put this in place, somebody might disagree on that, which might result in nothing. And so I think it's important that we just focus on the essentials, things we can universally agree on, to say, no, it's bad if kids are using it to cheat in school. It's bad if it's taking advantage of people, and so on and so forth. But
yeah,
but then is it really cheating though? Because it used to be you couldn't use a calculator. You have to do long division and stuff like that. They said no calculator, but then eventually it's like now you're in college or whatever, use calculators, and it's like you'll never have a calculator in your pocket. And then now we got magic devices that can pull up all of history and do everything in a moment, and you get to it fast. You get to the answer you need faster. So it's not really cheating, it's just getting there faster, just like a car is faster than a bike. But Sandra Bullock is right. Like, you can't, I hate to say it because it seemed like a little like gotcha kind of quote and like kind of crazy, but it's like politicians, businesses, students, you couldn't just ignore the internet in the 90s, and then you couldn't just ignore or block off social media in the 2000s, and now we're in the 2020s with AI. You can't just hide from it.
Yeah, I think what's something to kind of add to your point though, Brady. A lot of these kids in high schools are using AI to complete their homework, and like the way that they weight these test scores and pushing kids through. There was a statistic that Governor Tim Walz was out there touting that Minnesota had its highest ever graduation rate for high school students. And I think Minnesota history, I want to say it was like across the state, it was like 84% of high school students graduated, which was like a 20-point swing from just like 4 years ago, right? The problem is the proficiency, if you are to look at the actual standardized tests where these kids aren't able to use their phone, it's based off of what they've learned. They have some of the lowest proficiency rates across the country, like on a regular basis. So to your point, yeah, you graduated because all of these different metrics are just like, yep, I guess you sat in, you turned in enough homework, and now, yep, you get to pass to the next grade. But when you look at proficiency, so what we're seeing, and this really started during the COVID era, that I was reading these stories about how devastating the impacts of our lockdowns were. But now we're to the point that it's like, we're going to have a 4, 5, 6, 7, and who knows how much further it's going to grow year, kind of like cohort that moves through society that are stupid and don't understand basic things. And sure, they're smart enough to like ask a question to Chat GPT, but if you can manipulate those things, which we know that is part of human nature when it comes to controlling people, then you're going to have a huge swath of people that just don't even know how to think critically. And you brought that point up, Drew. We used to have to do long division and multiplication. And I'm, part of that. At least I have the core basis, because you and I didn't have phones when we went through school, like just wasn't a thing. And sure, we could use calculators, but there was even certain tests where you could only use a very basic calculator. So if you're doing like algebraic equations or whatever, like you're going to have to work that out, man. And ultimately, that at least gave us a foundation for understanding certain things. But at this point, I think we have this huge gap of what the average American, young adult is able to do without technology. And it's just curious, Brady, from your perspective, is that what you've noticed around your generation? Because you're technically, a Gen Z Zoomer.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm one of the elder Gen Zs, yes.
Elder Gen Zers. I mean, are you noticing that? Because you said you like to fish and hunt, and like you can go and sleep outside, and you can do all these things without technology. So you have a skill set that seems like is a dwindling skill set among your peers, and I think that's kind of unique. But yeah, kind of.
That's what I was about to ask too. So I'll just add on to that question to you, Brady. Is like it'll lead to like a half and half. They've been talking about K-shaped recovery since COVID, where that was more for businesses, but like what you're saying, AK, it's going to be for individuals, for people, for citizens, for kids, where it's like if you don't know how to figure. And South Park did a freaking episode of this, because they do an episode on everything, where the plumbers, electricians become billionaires because everybody wants them to fix their oven door, because not the average person either. Like I probably could figure some stuff out with electrical, well, then licenses and things, but it's just like, or I can go to work and make more money doing that and then pay somebody. But the idea was everyone kept offering them more money and they became billionaires. But yeah, it's going to be a split between people that can hunt, like can catch food, can go out, can fix a truck, can do all this stuff, and the ones that are just kind of sitting at home. And I'm not making fun of people that play video games or stream or watch streams, but it's just going to be like, can you, and I'm more of a critical thinker than a mechanical type guy, but what brings value to that? So yeah, and we'll get into it in the second hour with your background, Brady, but do you think that's kind of where we're going, is just this kind of split?
I think we're already there. This is somewhat tenuous to say as somebody running for office, but frankly, most people don't know how to do anything, like at all, right here and right now. I mean, you can see it driving around. You watch these people drive. It's like, that is utterly brain dead. Why would you perform that maneuver with a vehicle? You see people standing at the exit way of a Walmart. It's like, why are you thinking this is what you should do? Something's not right here. And so yes, this will accelerate. I appreciate your acknowledgement of the skills that I do have. And that ties into why I really am running, because I could, just get tired of it all and just live out in the mountains and be fine, take a little wife with me and be good. But then that's just me taking myself out of this game that we, the human people, really need to win, right? And so how do we fix that moving forward? I don't know exactly, but I have some ideas. And one of those ideas is that high school should actually be hard. I think you should get your high school diploma at approximately like 7th grade, so around 13, and it's something that you need to actually work for and be smart for. Not that I'm pro-China at all, but they have something that's called the Gao Chow, which you can cheat if you're rich and all that. But what that is at 7th grade, you take a test that determines if you go to college or if you get a regular job, construction job. And I think that's kind of what we need to do. I mean, if we want to improve the industrious qualities of America, we need people who can actually build stuff, unless people have useless degrees to work a spreadsheet. I mean, those people are kind of dead weight, and they're still people and we still love them, but it's indicative of a greater systemic issue that we need to correct here. And that is really what my campaign, my career is aiming to correct.
Yeah, and that's a good switch. I'll kind of end that on a positive note. I listen to these podcasts and everything, and it seems all doom and gloom. So for the audience out there, I'll try to put a positive spin on it. It's tough when you're in the moment talking to these. So it's like a do as I say, not as I do type deal. But now I'm trying to be like, take a breath and be like, there will be some kind of positive in all of this. But you're going to have to do it yourself. You're going to have to do it with how you teach your kids, if you don't have kids, it's your niece, your nephews, your siblings, all of that, because in doing what you're doing, Brady, is learning all these different skills. So like I said, we'll go into all that, but it's just like, I really just want to be able to teach my son, not just, hey, go to school and they'll tell you what to do and figure it out. And just hopefully you complete it. And then hopefully you go to college and hopefully you graduate college and hopefully you get a, whatever, 50, 100,000 or whatever amount you need, and then start a family. But it's just not the case anymore. So now it's more like, what can I teach you like this week? Like what, and David, we did this a lot in the Army, is cross train and be like, okay, we're going to teach you. It's not just pass or fail. No, we're going to, check and see if you learn it and then teach it back to me. With aviation, we talked right seat, left seat, because that's what you do in a helicopter. First, you're telling somebody what to do and watching, kind of like a car too, and then you're switching back and forth and actually explaining it. Maybe that's where my creative kind of thinking comes, and asking why. My son asks a million why questions till I can't. I'm like, I'm done, man. I feel dumb because I can't answer your why question for all this. But I really got to turn around and take to my mind, like, okay, let's figure it out together. But we need to have the time as individuals with all of our pulling in different directions. But ending on a positive note with that stuff, I believe that we just have to make the effort to learn about, well, for one, government and how that all works, and then just as many skill building things. So going back to the mentorship, mentor protege type deal, and then just it really doesn't have to be license and certifications. Just, can you really know and understand it? And it's going to be from that basic stuff of, for us, cold weather training. But yeah, we're jumping into second hour. David, if it's cool with you and you're back from wherever you went, maybe you went and talk with the AI for a little bit. How about you introduce our guest and dive into some questions with him?
I had some tech issues. It's interesting. We were talking about robots taking over the world and the danger we're all in. And I'm so staunchly anti-robot wars that my computer started giving me problems. But I'm back. Absolutely.
Or maybe you shouldn't have
eaten
that burrito at lunchtime and you wouldn't have explosive diarrhea right now.
Happens to the best of us.
Listen, I'm in a fasted state. I have not eaten yet today, actually, and I feel
robots want to take
fantastic.
us out, it's not going to be
outta
by
here with that
force. It's
nonsense.
going to be sending us crap food to make us in the bathroom longer. And yeah,
I'm sorry,
true,
man.
that's true.
Oh, real
Drop
quick
ship,
too.
drop ship.
Jason
We are-
Hackala says, "Hi guys, catching my first live." So I just wanted to throw out that comment. And David, go for it,
And it
brother.
sorry, one more. And it looks like
Welcome.
everyone's from Facebook.
Welcome,
in our
Jason.
comments. So cool. Yeah, streaming on Facebook, so people are
Yeah.
watching, listening on Facebook. Go ahead, David.
We got some. I was looking. We got some YouTube viewers too. But yeah, absolutely. Jump in the chat, guys. Let us know what's going on. Welcome to our new viewer, and Brady. So you and I met at a couple of different political events here in the southern suburbs from the cities area, and you got talked into running for office. And so we would love to just kind of you touched on a little bit of your background. And that you want to be involved in politics. What was really the thing that, because multiple people had asked you to run, that kind of made you decide to jump into the race?
at this particular juncture.
Yeah.
So
like when you were asked, because I was there when a couple people asked you, but yeah.
So I'll take this back to answer this question. I've been a construction worker since I'm 19, basically. Done that through about 25. And it sucks out there. Like, you are working your tail off while you're the subclass of our society. You're doing the actual work for these people who can't do anything at all. Seen as less. You're never going to get rich. You're never going to make it out. All these things. And so I was complaining to my old man. He's a boomer about it. Love the old man, but he's, we get to the point and he says, you're doing all this complaining. What have you done about it? And I'm like, well, he's actually got a point there. And so I began to strategize, and I thought, yeah, let's actually try to do something about this. And so this is when I made the decision to go to school to get a highly intellectual technical degree, so that I'm able to interface with the highly elite, with the wealthy, to say, listen, you're not going to belittle me for being the working man. I'm as smart, if not smarter than you, but I also know what it's like to be down here. And so this presents me as a person who's able to unify a bunch of people, who's smart, speaks Spanish, has a bunch of real world experience. And this was sort of the end goal. So now we're moving to where I'm in school. I was looking for instances of political involvement. Didn't want to run with the Dems. Super proud of that, to be a Republican now. But there was no U of M Republican club. I was looking for one. There was not one. I got an email forwarded to me from my dad that said, you should come to the caucus. He lives in Baltimore. I reside in this house here in Eagan. And so he wanted me to go to the caucus on his behalf. And I went there. By the time I left the Republican caucus, I was named vice chairman of the board, or of our precinct, rather. And then a few weeks later, we had our Senate district meeting. At the Senate district meeting, there was opportunities to be on committees and things, and I just decided to raise my hand at every available opportunity. That led me to the nominations committee, where we put people on to determine if they're qualifiable Republican candidates on our behalf. And nobody was running for Senate. At the time, we only had one running for the House. And so I thought, I'll jump in, basically put myself on as somebody on the nominations committee, nominate myself. I then had to get interviewed by the committee board, and we're running with it. Let's see, what was I going to say? Yes, I wasn't originally going to do it. I think in long term, if I want to have a huge impact politically, state, national level, I will need that bachelor's degree. It's bogus, but it's just a part of the game. Having a degree in chemical engineering from the U of M is very important to that role. But the thing is, this year there's no incumbent. Nobody else was running. It's completely wide open. And so this is as good of a chance as one could ever have, right? And now I do think I will win. Like, legitimately, if we just get the word out, I mean, it's an obvious choice. And I know I'm biased, but clearly, I mean, if you want something to change, you can vote for me, or you can vote for a 75-year-old white lady. I mean, it's no offense to her. I'm sure she's great. We haven't met. Genuinely, she's awesome, and I'm glad that she's involved. But if you want something to change, it's me. And but even if that doesn't happen, and again, it will, but the name is out. If I run again, the next time I run, there'll be yard signs. People will know me. We'll have a bigger base to start out instead of right now. We're starting completely from scratch, and it's going great. But that's why I'm in it. It's for the long game. I'm doing this because I think things are getting worse. I don't think anyone is fixing it. I don't think anything will change. I think it will continue to get worse. But I do think we will win. But how that occurs is by doing it. And so this is why I'm running, to get myself into the fight on behalf of not only myself, but people. The human spirit is why I am running for office.
And it's going to be a relatability, like we talked about, and that you're nimble. You're coming on a show like this, and each time you do something like that, you're going to get more experience under your belt compared to, I don't know this other person, but yeah, 74-year-old white lady or whatever the case is.
She's probably not that old, but it's I know.
But a different generation. So it's going to be.
Oh,
the more that you
never
can
miss the live show,
be authentic, and you seem like you've been authentic to me this whole time, and just be able to handle, not even tough questions. Tough is, down the line, but yeah, if you just have a conversation, you're going to be so far ahead of the game. Because if you ask, boomer, or I'm not boomer. I'm an old, you're an old Z. I'm an old millennial. I'm an old millennial. I think I'm at the cutoff of millennial 84. But yeah, so I think the more like nimble you're going to be, like you can come into the stuff young, and hopefully you're encouraging, like, I guess, do you have peers that are going after similar things like you?
Peers, not particularly. When I lived in Missouri, I helped a guy get elected to the state house in Missouri. He wasn't a great candidate in the long run, but he did get elected. People are very excited for me, I found, which is really nice. I found that most people are very afraid to run for office, which is news. I'm not afraid of it at all. I'm looking forward to Democratic smear campaigns and all the rest, just to see what they do, to see how it encourages me to grow. There's people who are willing to help and to that nature, but in terms of like actually running, no. Maybe my brother, but he's in the service now, so we'll have to wait till after that.
Well, or even be part of yours or another campaign, just to get their feet in the game and really understand it. Yeah, I know some people don't want to be in the spotlight, but let's be real. Every job is in the spotlight these days. Social media is, once you put something online, it not only is it on there forever, like we've heard about the last 10 or so years, like another person can pull it up in 5 seconds of Googling this or Googling that. Like I've just had to accept that with my experience with, medical issues and stuff like that. It's just like, it's all out there. And that whole thing of privacy, there is no privacy anymore. So you really just gotta, like I said, be as authentic as you can, do your best, apologize when it's applicable, not just to the mob or what somebody's accusing you of, but it'd be like, and it's usually like, apologize when you know that you made a mistake to that one specific person or whatever that you made a mistake to, not to the whole world. But yeah, it is a new generation with politicians just knowing how the game works, especially responding to the media. But yeah, the person I think of is I call him JD Advanced, but he's ready for whatever the media is going to say or whatever new thing, and then just leans into it. Like, are you kind of picking up on that kind of change where it's just you not being that stuffy politician? I mean, you got AK here with goes everywhere with this hat, which I think is absolutely amazing. Suit, tie, and then American flag hat. So what do you think about that? Are you seeing more just be like, nope, I am who I am. You can.
Oh yeah, totally. And I think, excuse me, like, yeah, everything you've ever posted is online, and most real people have something that, if you wanted to get some dirt on somebody, it'd be up there. And not to say that I'm stupid or reckless or whatever, but if something negative came out about me, I think I could be able to point to that and say, this just means I'm a real person. This just means I'm somebody like you. I don't have this squeaky clean background because I'm not that guy. I'm genuinely a cut from the American cloth. And yeah, it's totally changing. I think with the AI, with everything being fake, with money being fake, all this, people are, as we've said, craving authenticity. And so that's one of the things is you have to be a genuinely authentic person. That doesn't mean be stupid. That doesn't mean be non-articulate. It doesn't mean be a slob. But there's a difference there between authenticity and like the performative polishness that we've seen throughout our political history, where you'll see like presidents debating on the stage and it's like two robots reciting scripts to one another. This is something that people can see and they can automatically just go like, okay, they're fake. Somebody's paying for them to say what they're saying, and they're more of the same. And so I think I'm able to present the avenue of like, I'm up here contending with these guys, and I'm one of you. We might disagree. We might have differences in preference of economic policy or moral policy or whatever. But the point is, I'm here because I love people. I love you. I love the human race. And I would not like to see it extinguished, which is, I think, one of the end goals of whatever it is that is imposing this doom upon us. We need to fight that as people. And this is why I'm running, is to do that.
So I just had a couple of questions. So what district are you running for Senate in?
52. We are 90% of Eagan. We are Eastern Burnsville and Mendota Heights. So if you live in that area, vote for me.
Awesome,
There's
man.
somebody
too.
in the chat, Jason. Sweet,
Jason.
I live in Egan.
Love to meet
There,
you.
there you go, Jason
hang out.
Ackla. Good
Yeah.
dude. He's been a Republican activist since I can remember. Super sweet dude. Definitely got to get to know who he is. He is a patriot. What I wanted to kind of do is just ask you a handful of, like, some people might call them softball, but are there a handful of issues, or even just list like the top 3 issues for you for this election cycle that you want to be able to hopefully bring a positive change?
Okay.
And listen, yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say real quick before you jump into those, we should give a shout out to Carly. I don't know if you remember Carly from the
Yeah.
candlelight vigil that happened. Yeah, she's in our audience this evening. And shout out Carly.
shout out to Carly,
without
man.
you, the
It's
3 of
been a
us
minute.
wouldn't have ended up doing a show together. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
true.
absolutely.
That's true. And
But
so, like
back
I
to
said,
Brady.
like I would say like the 3 kind of like top things that are important to you for what you want to accomplish. And just to kind of lay and set the scene here. Right now we have a 1-seat deficit in the Minnesota State Senate. So that means that if we flip 1 Senate seat and everyone else were to keep their seats, or the party in power keeps that seat, then we technically would have a majority in the Minnesota State Senate. And so it's an important understanding, like, this is how close we are in Minnesota. I know sometimes that we get painted that, we're this far left because we got, crazy tampon Tim, and we've got, Peggy Flanagan out there, and Ilhan Omar, right? Like, we've got all of these deranged leftists that are in the state of Minnesota. But like, as a state, our state legislature is perfectly split in the state house. It's a perfect 67 to 67. And in the, like I said, in the Senate, it's 34 to 33. So I'm just kind of curious what your 3 top issues are for running, man, what you want to accomplish if you were able to get in.
My main thing would be affordability. I think one of the most immediate things that a government can do to provide for its people is to take less money. I think that we have the resources in place to be able to still administer the benefits and things of that nature that we want to have as a state. I think we, the working people, have been taken too much of. I think homelessness is a huge problem that is not talked about enough. We don't want to hurt people. We love people. But if you are actively doing drugs at the train station, that's unacceptable. And we cannot allow that. I ride the train from St. Paul into the campus every day. I've seen people smoking crack on the train, smoking meth on the train. I now know what a bubble is. It's that little pipe that they use, because I've seen people selling it on the train, and they scream and they intimidate young women. And it's, we all just kind of turn the blind eye to say, well, we don't want to be mean. It's like, we're being mean by allowing this person to be out here. This person needs to be sheltered, and we need to be making sure they become sober. And if they have issues, we need to address them there, not just airing them out on the street in the name of compassion, of all things. It's very striking. And then the third thing that I'd want to do, and this is probably the hardest one to do, the hardest one to articulate as well, but just to foster some sense of unity, because there is a split here that does exist. But I believe that there's good people on both sides. And I really just want everybody to be on the same team working together. It's a lot easier said than done. But I think all the time about, what if we just cut the crap and for 5 years just work together? What would it look like if we just set our differences to the side and sacrifice for one another? In 5 years, we'd be an entirely different place. And we can achieve that. We just have to start thinking like this, thinking and helping one another, and believing in ourselves. And that's why I'm running.
No, I appreciate that. Just kind of a follow-up to that on a couple of the points that you raised. Is there, when it comes to like unity, what type of experience have you had? And maybe we can say that there's like a caveat. Is it that you're saying that you want unity with other elected, like far left Marxists, or is it that you want to be able to work on behalf of constituents that maybe don't trust Republicans, and obviously you're running for the seat? Or is it that you believe that there is a path to unifying with some of these further leftist folks? And if so, what kind of experience have you had in finding success? Because I know myself, it has been so difficult even with members of my family and also close people that I grew up with, that we feel so divided on our moral worldviews that we can't even have conversations about what is happening in the world, because it just devolves into like, you're a fascist and you're a this. And it's like, all right. And it's not even me pushing it. So I know that's kind of a long-winded question, but I'm just curious on that unity point, how you can kind of like lay out how you would accomplish it, or at least what do you have in your experience that you think you could accomplish that?
No, it's a great point. And I have some experience with that too, in terms of the family members, especially during COVID. There was some real animosity between people from differing political perspectives. In terms of how do I think that I can do this, the best training I've had is actually in the course that I'm in right now, post-colonial literature. It is communist indoctrination to a T. Like it's been very eye-opening to see how different like militant leftists really think about the world, about other people. But I've had to learn how to communicate with them. And it's all a rhetoric game, right? We disagree on something so small, and that automatically means that you're evil and you're a fool and I'm smart and enlightened. And both sides do this. And I believe that the deep state, the establishment, the whatever, has implemented this intentionally to try to keep us from working together, from improving ourselves in our lives collectively. And it also seeks to strip away our individual freedoms in the process. And so what I want to tell people, all people, is yes, we're going to have a difference opinion here, but I don't hate you. I don't hate anybody. We're simply working to try to solve problems. I believe that each and every person on earth, with the exceptions of few fringe evil people, we all want the same things. Everybody wants safety. Everybody wants prosperity and fulfillment. And we just have a differences of opinion on the most efficient means to get there, right? And so if we can remind people, one another, of these, and obviously there will always be bad actors, but if we can work together, those of us who are willing to try to help and to say, this is what we want, what's here now, how do we achieve that? Very akin to the scientific method. It's like, this is our hypothesis of what we will think is happening. This is what we think is happening. How do we correct that? Very similar to fixing a machine. It's the same exact process. And I think I have skills to fix machines and to have rhetoric to be able to gain common ground. In fact, I want to add one more thing just about this. Like, it works. We're figuring out how to do it. I wrote an essay on Christian sexual ethics in that class. And this is a class where he openly like mocked the crucifixion of Christ. He said time is racist. He said like heinous, obscene things.
Time is racist. I knew that.
That's my new favorite one. I heard that.
That's why I'm late to
recently.
everything, man. Because Tom is racist, man.
Oh, it's insane. He said it was because like the British made time zones so that they could forcibly implement capitalism upon the world. Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, buddy.
I think that though, like we've been dealing with that for quite some time now, you know, since the Obama era too stuff. I think we're going to have bigger problems like we've talked about all night to worry about. Once we don't have a lot of the big problems, like because we had like, you know, 9/11 and stuff like that. And there really wasn't a lot of division. It was actually a lot of people on both sides were talking weapons of mass destruction and all this kind of stuff and voting for all these things. And then you get Obama, and then now we're like, okay, now we're going to fight against the little things that we can't really solve. And then the whole global warming, climate change stuff. And but now, like we talked about, this AI stuff, and maybe it will be universal basic income and things, but it will be more people that agree that it needs to happen. And like you said, Brady, but how do we do it? I'd rather have the conversations. Okay, how do we implement, you know, something like this? So here's another positive note from me. I think we are going to have, well, it's not really a positive because it's like, we are going to have bigger things to worry about than gender, than, you know, than all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Well, think about it like with Eric Swalwell, all the stuff that he's been through in the last, week. I haven't even like been able to dive into everything. I just keep seeing headlines of him resigning or not going for stuff. Same with Tim Walz. And then you got Ilhan Omar with her, you know, wealth and assets and things like that. So it's like, and especially with AI or you know, or
that was an accounting error, Drew.
Of course. Yeah. But that stuff is going to come to light faster. So it is a good thing that they're not going to be able to hide it as well as they used to. So you do have to be authentic. You do have to be genuine. And then if there is a mistake, if there was an accounting error, chat people listening, I'm doing air quotes. Then it's like, okay, it was an accounting error, but the daycare stuff, the fraud stuff, like there's being nowhere to hide it. And the people, and us in Minnesota, a lot of us, we've known that there's been shady things with that. And now the whole nation knows it. And now Nick Shirley is in California, and now California's passing laws saying stopping journalists investigating us, but that's breaking the, First Amendment type stuff anyway. But yeah, so we're going to have bigger things to worry about. And I like the idea that you're saying, okay, we're going to have different ways of going about it, but let's kind of figure it out and ditch all the drama. Would you say that's kind of where we're going?
That's where it has to go. It's either that or total destruction. And I think people are craving it too. Like, we hate the fact that, like, we hate how we can't be friends with the liberals. And I think the liberals feel the same way, maybe to a lesser extent. But we want to be patriotic about America again. Like, all of us together, this is an excellent place. It's the best place ever. And we need to start thinking that way. And we can do that. We need the mechanisms to do that. But it takes honesty, it takes humility and hard work. And we can all do it.
Yeah, I just want to throw a couple more comments out there. So already, David already said shout out to Carly, but she did say 100% authentic. There are too many fake people in this world that just want to get ahead in life. And then whoop whoop to you, Brady, for running. Go Egan. Grew up in Egan for 25 years. Now I live in liberal Lakeville, which is funny. Also, Carly said, hey, guys. And then Jason said, we all need to find and get to know like-minded neighbors. And I think you had one other point that you wanted to bring up because of your pre or post-colonial literature class before I cut you off with my stupid joke about time being racist, and that's why I'm late, because I'm black. But yeah, you kind of wanted to make that point about, how you've been able to, you wrote this essay about Christianity. I'm kind of curious, how did that go over?
It went super well. Yeah. And I was not expecting it at all. But basically my argument was, things have degraded around us sexually, and this is in part due to an implicit destruction of Christian moral character. We read a book that made fun of marriage and abstaining from sex until marriage, and very just classic traditional modes of thinking. And so I told this professor, who is very high up in the post-colonial world, that you're misguided. Your anger is misguided. He's mad about colonialization and subjugation and things to this effect, but it's not genuine Christian sexual morality. And he opened his class the following day commending me for the great paper that I'd written, and he asked me to write more on it. Yeah, a true compliment, and it gave me hope to say, I'm learning how to talk to these people, to the leftists, to the militant people, because it's not that easy. At the start of the semester, I would just talk normally, I guess you could say, and there was a lot of frown faces and scowling. But there's like a syntax that you have to use to be able to talk with leftists efficiently and effectively that I have been forced to learn. And I think that's actually something for our party as well. Not to say that we're going to fold or concede or anything, but to just understand the way that they talk and to do that ourselves. It's kind of hard to describe. But when you see
no, go ahead.
It comes to me from experience. It's they make everything about identity, like individuality and identity. And I think it's important to preface extensively that we are not fighting over people here. We're fighting over ideas. We're not damning someone's religion or way of life. We're just discussing an idea here. Because often what happens is a Republican will say something in debate to a liberal, but he missed the identity mark, and then it completely unravels and falls apart from there, where they could have actually had a true and open discussion that way. So basically what I'm trying to say is we can do it.
Yeah, and I think, you remind me of a couple of things. So I was given a book by Stanley Hubbard, and for those of you that don't know, he's one of the billionaires in Minnesota, and he has donated to Republicans for quite a while. Brilliant business mind, grew basically the entire, DirecTV, and then sold it. That's how he first made his money. But he owns Hubbard Broadcasting and different things like that. But he gave me this book by social psychologist Jonathan Haidt. And this was back in like 2015, 2016, called The Righteous Mind. And it was like his actual second book. His first book was called The Happiness Hypotenuse. And beyond that, he's read Coddling of the American Mind. He's also read The Anxious Generation. And throughout all of this, he loves to kind of discuss that there's this idea that we as humans, when we have differences, worldviews of moral issues, especially moral issues, that we find ways that to kind of explain away and justify how we feel the way that we feel. And that if you actually want to communicate with someone else on a moral perspective, you can't beat them over the head with facts, right? You're never going to be able to prove them when they morally feel that what you're saying is against what they value. Instead, you have to appeal to what their intuitions are. And basically what he figured out through this thing called the moral foundation theory is that intuitions come first, strategic reasoning comes second. And I think that you've basically stumbled upon that. But sometimes what happens to me is I know it, I love the material, but there are certain times where I'm just like, I just can't stand these people. So I'm happy to hear. I'm happy to hear that on college campus at the U of M, which shout out to my alma mater as well, Scotty Ma, row the boat, go Gophers. That you're actually in today's age in a post-colonial literature class, actually able to have conversation. Actually gives me hope, man. So I'm so happy to hear that. That's kind of where you're at. And I just wanted to, again, as we kind of close up this portion of the show, we're going to still discuss a handful of stories. Where can people find you? Where can people follow you? How can they get involved in your campaign? And is there like one big need that you have or an upcoming event that you want people to specifically come to or support you on?
Sure. Yes. Go to my website, bradyoneal.com, built by me. I just recently today published an About Me section that I like quite a lot. But it's got 4 issues on there, namely Minnesota's promised exploitation. It has homelessness and liberty, which is a section on firearms. Check out my website. Go to my Facebook, Brady for State Senate on Facebook. Instagram, it is at We the People Live in a Society is my Instagram title. TikTok, at Vader Talk. That's VATORTOK. That's an old account that I had when I was working on elevators, trying to go viral, trying to get sponsored, do that whole thing, didn't pan out, but I had the account still. And so we're going to turn this into my official campaign TikTok. I had to delete some things that would have gotten me thrown in jail allegedly, but it's good and clean now. It's good fun. We've got an
that's interesting. Yeah.
It's cool. It's fun to go through there and look at the memories that I had back in the day and all that.
We all learn and grow. Yeah, we learn and grow, and you can be spicy on different platforms and stuff like that. And like you said, you can own it and be like, yep, this is me. And then, of course, we need to fine tune our stuff and, be our brother's keeper is what we talked about in college and fraternities and even in the Army and stuff like that, because we're all going to fall short. But yeah, no, that's really cool to hear all your, just leveling up, I guess you will, and leveling over, like just trying different stuff and just kind of going for it. So yeah, it sounds motivating that there are people that are still going for stuff. So that's pretty cool. Good to hear.
Appreciate it.
So do you have anything, that you specifically want people to do, whether it's go to your website, make a donation, go to an event that you have coming up?
The best thing you can do for my campaign is, first of all, vote if you're in my district. That's really what I want. It's actually been shocking to learn about how much donations are involved in this whole process. It's a huge game. And for the people listening, like me as a Senate candidate, when you raise $3,000, I now get access to taxpayer funded resources to fund my campaign. Not a lot of people know that. Money, it's totally for profit, totally all that way. I don't like it, but it is what it is.
Public subsidy, baby.
Yeah, that's a good question. Can you tell a little bit more about how the money works? I know because a lot of people don't know. I don't know, but it's like, is there a max? I know there is. Well, what's the max people can donate and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, there's tons of rules. Like there's literal books on how the campaign fundings need to happen. For an individual, they can donate at max $1,000 to my campaign. I think businesses can do like up to 5 or 10. I can give myself $5,000 into this campaign. Yeah, there's public subsidized funds, and it's very intricate. You know, like,
So if somebody donated 1,000, what would that have an impact on? Like, what would $1,000 do for you?
$1,000 for me would be buying flyers, would be buying posters. Obviously, like governor or U.S. senator, these campaigns garner millions of dollars, and that's what they can pay for, like TV ads, billboards, things to that effect. For me, I think the biggest thing that you can do for my campaign, which is the second best thing if you're not in my district, is to share the social media. Like, the more eyeballs get on that, that's way better than a flyer in my mind. Like, I made an Instagram recently, and I don't know about you guys, but most people, maybe of my generation or whatever, they want to keep their follow ratio really nice. They want to have a lot of followers and not a lot of following. And that's kind of how I came into the situation with that mentality. But then it dawned upon me, it's like, if I request follow, they immediately see my page, my account, my website. And so I'm going through there, mass following all of them, because it's a numbers game. And what we need is people to jump on the website. I think the website's put together real nice. And it's something that doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on, you could try to vote for. Because I recognize in my district as a Republican, that's going to be the hardest thing. You know, if I had gone to the Blues and just said all the right things, I mean, it would be me with the job, right? But I'm not going to sacrifice my morals in that way. And that's why I'm proud to be a Republican. But that's it. You know, I don't know really what the money's for. The reason I have to ask for it is because the boomers on my team love them. They tell me, you know, I said, what if we just didn't take donations? They hated that idea. They're like, no, you need donations. We need to make money. This is for money. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, so like
wild.
I'll just throw this out there, right? So again, I'm the Republican National Committee man, and that to you, Brady, may mean nothing, but essentially I am one of the 168 members of the Republican National Committee. So I am quite literally a National Republican Party officer. And every state, our 50 states and our 6 territories, elect one committee man, one committee woman, and then we all have a party chair. And so we get together and we actually decide and help to actually guide the National Republican Committee, which is GOP. So if you go to GOP.com and you click on member, you're going to see me under Minnesota. And so what that does when you raise money, you have to convert average everyday Minnesotans into voters. How do you convert them? You have to tell them A, that you exist, B, why they should vote for you, and then C, convince them to go and vote for you. And what does that typically take? Well, if you have someone that votes in every single election and they always vote Republican, we call that a high propensity engaged voter. Not a lot, because when they go and they see that you got an R behind your name, they're going to vote for you. So you don't need to spend really any money on them. What you need to spend money on are all the people that might agree with your values or even your positions, but they think that voting is a waste of time, or they don't even realize that there's an election going on. So when you give someone $1,000, not about just flyers or posters or ad buys, it's also going to be about, hey, you're going to get a piece of literature in the mail, or you're going to have X amount of voter contacts. You're going to maybe pay for people to go and call. And what I mean by pay for them to call is you might actually need campaign staff to go and knock on the doors and tell people that you exist. So that's, you know, what money actually does when you donate. But again, I've been involved in Republican Party politics since 2006. So that's kind of my whole thing. Just want to throw out a couple more chats. Kathleen says, great show today, guys. Thank you very much, Kathleen. Jason says, shaking hands and kissing babies is real. So that's, true, man. If you are running for office, you got to let people know who you are, and then you got to get them to like you enough to go and actually vote for you.
So true.
Well, and prove that you're real. Like, and we talked about AI all night. You know, anything can come off like an AI politician, and people, well, I can speak for myself, I'll just skip right by it. But you coming on a podcast or me seeing you on a different podcast, I'm really going to know kind of what you're about. And then especially if I see you in person at whatever, a parade. What's that? Somebody mentioned Casper's in Egan. I'm like, oh, I know Casper's, and stuff like that. So it's like, and that proves you're real, and doesn't mean, you can go and have a drink or two. And it doesn't mean you're going to get, sloppy, but it's just like, yeah, I'd rather relate to a real person than just somebody that just is fake and putting it on for whatever, or is just slapped across posters.
No, drinks are great. That's how I'm going to do a lot of campaigning is like Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, just go to the local watering holes and meet the people there, because these are the people that typically have checked out, said it's all fake and useless, our political system or whatever. And I can look these people and tell them, like, I get it, and that's why I'm doing it. Like, I literally know what it's like to be you. I know what it's like to think it's all effed, because in some respects it is. But that's why I'm trying to put my name out here to try to fix it on your behalf, on my behalf, on our behalf, right? And so I think, yeah, I need to meet people. I think I'm naive and overconfident for sure, but the majority of the people I talk to will want to vote for me. Is
maybe go like pump their gas, be like, all right, I'm gonna pump the truck for you, and and something like that. It's real stuff. How about these gas prices?
Yeah, before you go and do that, just understand that Minnesota Campaign Finance, you cannot give people gifts that have a monetary value. They consider that actually buying a vote or an election. So what you could do is you could organize that everyone in an area, they get something that has no value to it. So like you can't pump people's gas because, technically you could be like, oh, well, if you paid an attendant, now you've given me this monetary value of your labor. It's so silly, and I know that it seems absurd, but
you could say that. I hear you, but you could say that for anything.
Check with your treasurer before you violate campaign finance law. Okay,
there are people that pay people to bring on podcasts.
Don't go to prison, man.
No,
I know, but it's just like anything can be of value nowadays. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, but like, what can you do? Just walk around in a parade, I guess. But
no, you can shake people's hands, and you can do all that type of great stuff. But I just wanted to throw out, just as an interesting kind of piece, and kind of get your opinion. This is a little bit off of our standard beaten path, but are you familiar, Brady, with the rapper Gucci Mane?
Of course.
Okay, all right. Okay, we got a Gucci Mane fan.
I am not.
Brick Squad, but not. Yeah, man. Dude, I love Gucci Mane. I just wanted to pull up this story. It's very, very fascinating to me and Brady, but apparently not to Drew or David. But the U.S. Attorney's Office, Northern District of Texas. This is a few weeks old, but 9 men, including well-known musical artists, federally charged for kidnapping at music studio in Dallas. Basically breaks down that this week 9 individuals, this again back in early April, including well-known artists, were federally charged for kidnapping and robbing at gunpoint numerous victims at a music studio in Dallas, Texas, announced U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Texas, Ryan Raybould. 8 of the 9 were arrested yesterday in Dallas, Texas, and Memphis, Tennessee. They are charged. And here's who they are. Pooh Shiesty, who's Lontrell Williams Jr., Pooh Shiesty's dad, Lontrell Williams Sr., Rodney Knight Jr., known as Big 30, who's also signed with Brick Squad, Kadarius Waters, Terrence Rogers. And here's the thing that's crazy, right? They basically drove to Dallas. They knew that Gucci Mane was going to be in the studio, and it alleges that Pooh Shiesty produced an AK-style pistol, forced one of the victims, which is Gucci Mane, to sign a release from the recording contract at gunpoint. Then the remaining conspirators displayed firearms, robbed the other, I think it was like Gucci Mane and a manager, of their Rolex watches, jewelry, cash, and other high-value items. One victim was choked to nearly the point of unconsciousness. And then here's some photos of injuries in the complaint. And so this is like this white dude, man. He's probably like just like at the studio, like, dog, like I'm working for Gucci Mane. And so the thing that I find interesting, and what I'm kind of curious about your guys' perspective, is like, listen, we have this idea, I think, right now in the United States, where those that are wealthy, that live in luxury, like, we don't really necessarily care what's going on with them. I think it's part of like this larger cultural divide that we have as more people are becoming, successful, and especially during the Biden era, man, and during COVID, where we kind of look at these stories. But I'm just kind of curious from your guys' perspective, and feel free to jump in if you got an opinion. The idea that Gucci Mane, who's a well-known artist, is robbed by another artist and that he wouldn't get caught is so fascinating to me. So I'm just kind of curious what you guys' thoughts are on a story like this.
Well, they're playing with high dollar figures, and as the songs would suggest, they came up out the mud. So it might stand to reason that they take some of that with them, in spite of living in luxury at that point. I don't care who you are. I think something very serious is at play if you're going to like put a gun in somebody's face to get out of a contract. That's crazy.
And you know what's even crazier about this story? So Gucci Mane is known, and this is for you to know, Drew. He is known for killing two men who broke into his home to kill him and rob him. He literally defended his castle and he killed these people. Now, he was facing charges because down in Atlanta, they were like, maybe you knew these people, maybe you lured them here, but he ended up beating the charges. But Gucci Mane defended his property. So knowing that Gucci Mane will pull the strap and he will defend his life, that was kind of crazy. But the other part of this story, which I'm kind of, again, curious, and we don't have to really dive deep into this, but there is a cultural phenomena that exists, and it's within the Black community. And this story right here from Hot 97, Gucci Mane met with Rat Chance at first appearance after Pooh Shiesty's arrest. And basically, people are saying like, oh, the only reason that Pooh Shiesty got arrested is because you ratted him out. Like, you should have just, I guess, went and handled it like a man, which means, I guess, Gucci Mane should have just went and murdered Pooh Shiesty and the people, which is absurd. But yeah, the story just kind of breaks down that he's been facing these chants of people calling him a rat when he stepped on the stage, and he was down at Birmingham Stallions UFL home opener, and it was his first major public outing since the legal allegations involving Pooh Shiesty surfaced earlier. I'm just kind of curious, like, do you guys understand, or what do you have opinions on it comes to like snitching or ratting people out to the authorities? Or are you like, listen, like, I guess if I'm not going to stop the person, I guess the next thing that you should do is probably go and, call the cops when someone does you wrong.
I mean, I would say, we have our constitutional, rights. So, especially when it comes to 2A and all that kind of stuff. But then it gets to the line of, is it creating a victim somewhere? Are they hurting, especially when it comes to hurting women, hurting children? I'm not cool with all that at all. So I don't know if you call it ratting, but it's just like, you need to do something to stop others from being harmed. I mean, that's why I joined the Army, because I thought that I could do something within my own current skills and hopefully getting some more to stop harm from coming to other people. But if it's kind of whatever, this or that, I'm not gonna snitch. I'm not gonna be like, that's on them. But I don't know. I just don't like people being harmed, especially for no reason. But yeah, but you got to be able to defend your property too. Defend your property, your property, your people, your people you love. But all that extra stuff, people need to figure it out for themselves. Or cops need to jump in if they need to. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's my thing, my little soapbox issue when it comes to like calling people rats or snitches. Now, if I am, I've decided with Drew and with David that we're gonna go and we're gonna like rob people. Like, that's a decision that we've all made. And then I get
ride at dawn,
right? And then I flip because the DA is offering me a deal. Yeah, that's snitching. That's wrong. But at the same time, it's like, y'all are doing bad stuff anyway. So I don't really care if one thief turns on another thief. That I can understand. My problem is if you didn't agree to do crimes and then someone pulls you into their crimes, or they've done crimes to you or to your business, apparently you can't go and, I guess, tell the law about it. That's considered being a rat. I've always thought that is grimy. And what it actually does is it encourages vigilante and lawlessness. Because listen, as humans, we want to get even. When someone takes from us, we want to be able to get our lick back. We want to be able to say, you took from me, I now have to take from you. That's the way of the world. And I think that in a civilized society, we say, okay, you could do that. You can risk death or great bodily injury, or you could go to law and say, like, this person took from me and I wasn't putting myself at risk by going and doing that. So that's just my little soapbox issue. And that's just how I feel.
What's the deal with, like, I'm sure we all know and heard stories where somebody's using drugs, they get caught by the police, however, and the police are like, where'd you get it? Tell us who it is, give us some information, we'll let you off this. And I've heard about those stories all the time. Is that considered?
Yeah. That is like the standard snitching, because you were engaged in criminal activity and you're just basically flipping on people and setting them up so you can get a lighter sentence. But again, I can say that, like, if everyone's doing illegal stuff, there still is a level of, like, I don't really care what happens to you. If criminals want to, like, do crime to each other, that's less important. As a fellow human being, I don't want that. I don't like suffering. But if a criminal does something to someone that's not a criminal, that's where it's like, we can't allow that to happen, because the consequences are you have huge amounts of vigilantism, because if people feel they can't trust the society. I just hate, in this case, Gucci Mane was not part of the robbing crew. Gucci Mane was the person that had crime done to him and to his record label.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that's being a rat. And I wanted to ask Brady, what's your favorite Gucci Mane song?
I think Birdbath.
Birdbath's good. You want to know my favorite video of Gucci Mane? Is Shirt Off. My shirt off. My shirt off. And he's literally sitting there. He's got like a fat pot belly, and he just has his shirt off, and he keeps on saying, my shirt off.
He's East Atlanta Santa.
Atlanta Santa. I love Gucci.
That just spoke to your soul, didn't it?
It did, man.
I think rats. I want to talk about rats. Like,
yeah.
Everybody who complains about a snitch would so fold. Like, within a second, within a breath, they would totally tell. And so you see all these people, like, pointing at Gucci and snitching. It's like, what do you know?
I don't like the cops, the lawyers, or whatever. And granted, a lot of this is what I take on by watching movies and TV, but they abuse their power and just really not give that person their constitutional rights. And, the making of a murderer, all that kind of stuff. That stuff's been happening, not in just TV and movies. And they just abuse it and, create a situation and then get somebody to confess to things, to rat people out. And I'm not a fan of that either. I don't know. I really want everybody to be legitimate, both on the law enforcement legal side, but also on the, other side of people that are doing stuff. And then there are bad laws out there too. And there are laws that people don't even enforce too.
Where do you stand on vigilante justice, David Webster?
I mean, I'm all for it. Wait, what are we talking about?
I don't want to get way into it, but Daredevil, we're talking about Marvel and Disney and changing and bad writers. Listen, it's been a met. Like, we don't have time now, but it's
if a situation is happening,
upset.
If you're the person that's there, handle it, and
handle your business.
Handle your business. Yeah.
Handle your business. Yeah, man. I after this we can move on to
I got some more positive stuff we can end on. No, if you got something to say.
No, I was just gonna say, like, at the end of the day, I've had this beef with people being like, oh, you can't stitch if someone does something. It's like, listen, if I'm just minding my business and someone attacks me, my two options are defend myself. And listen, I fully advocate defending yourself and using and exercising your Second Amendment right to do that, because I actually have a permit to carry and I carry every single day. So I believe in all of that. But the reason why I don't go and met out justice with my own two hands is because I actually don't want to live in that type of society. Now myself personally, I could probably survive because I'm big enough. And again, I know how to use firearms and weapons. And I actually, I've never lost a physical fight. I know how to fight. But I don't want that for most people. Most people aren't going to be able to do that super well. And you made that perfect, point, Brady. A lot of people that talk about being essential, like if you had to square up with someone and say, all right, like it's me versus you, a lot of people are going to fold, run away, and all that stuff. Whereas me, I don't like to fight because I know that any fight that I'm in could lead to someone dying because I can use great amount of force to stop someone. And plus, again, I'm proficient in a firearm, but I don't want to. It's the last thing I'm trying to do is use fight. I'd rather call the cops and have them come and handle something instead of me just having to murder or kill someone or whatever. Like, that's just my final piece, and I'll let you move on, Drew.
Yeah, let me do some positive stuff that the government is actually doing. So Brady, hopefully you can support this in whatever way possible and your future positions. It's not even going to share. Where is it? Oh, I always forget. We switch platforms. So AM, if you can allow my share. All right, so we got this is a VA website. They just passed. Forgive me if I'm using the wrong verbiage, but passed a law, passed a grant program for adaptive sports. So support disabled veterans participating in adaptive sports, therapeutic arts. The VA has been getting into this a lot more lately, rather than, and I guess you could thank the current administration maybe, but it's much better than focusing on medication or just bureaucracy and stuff. I can speak from experience. This is going to amazing things. This photograph is at the National Disabled Summer Sports Clinic, where you get a mix of surfing, sailing, biking. I'm going to forget some. I said sailing, kayaking, stuff you don't normally do. So it's really cool. I just got back from the winter sports clinic. I've been going for 5 years now. Even when I was pretty much like 90% paralyzed, they had stuff for everybody, losing limbs, ALS, MS, GBS like myself, TBI, PTSD, all these things. If you qualify for that, they will get you out there. It's like a mini Olympics in what they put on. It's absolutely amazing, especially if it's getting people off the, out of the couch, off the bed, out of the hospital. Not to go too descriptive, but even people that are nearly fully paralyzed have whole tubes connected to them. I'm not going to go in great detail. They'll get them out there and work with prosthetics. So especially the winter sports clinic, where you're up in Colorado and veterans are coming from Puerto Rico, coming from Hawaii, Florida, that never seen snow before. And it's the most active people you ever seen. So recently they just passed this bill or law that they're going to grant something like $16 million more to adaptive sports. So nonprofits can apply for this, and it makes such a huge difference. And let me try to switch. They can apply. Oh, here's a good quote. So as a military veteran, ski therapy has been instrumental in helping me navigate through my experiences, injuries. Skiing provides me with a sense of freedom and empowerment. And so it can be equine therapy, all these different things. And it's just, I can't speak to it enough, because a lot of people just go to the prescription medication, go to having that bad attitude. But it's cool to go out there and see people are active, and all the trainers, the prosthetic people, they're all loving it. You go to Aspen Snowmass, and this is a different world. The people that ski there, that work there, they're not your same people. And so when we go there with 400 veterans and all these employees and volunteers, the people that work there, they're like, no, this is our favorite week of the year. It's been going on for 40 years now. And they're like, we love having you guys here because you're just nice. And, I'm not saying rich people that have their, eighth home in Aspen or whatever the deal is. They say it's just a different kind of atmosphere and a positive one. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to share one of my last runs with where I was skiing. Let's see if I can get there. But no, it's incredible. I'm going to try to get David out there too to kind of come check it out. Where is it?
Well, while you're looking for it, I was just
go ahead.
That this administration has been doing so many things to be able to help out all of the warriors that have served this great country, that have suffered from any damages and injuries. And I think, again, part of this grant program, and then also President Trump the other day signed an executive order in regards to the FDA being able to support clinical trials. A lot of veterans have been on top of using psychedelics. So I just want to throw that out. This administration has been amazing when it comes to helping veterans, but take it away.
Yeah, in a different kind of way that's actually producing results. So it's like, yeah, let me show this. We didn't get a lot of snow up in Aspen this year, so we had to adapt a little bit. But I upgraded, like I've been talking about, to the mono ski. So I finally got a chance to, that's a mono meaning 1 rather than 2, or the Nordic where it's a flat one. So it's not easy. I mean, normal skiing is 2 skis, which you're standing on with your full body weight and balance. This is a little bit
Sweet, dude. So you're putting the pressure on your hands to hold the other, like, supporting skis. That's hard, man.
and then coming to a stop, nearly like hockey.
Yeah, that's dope. You like go to the side. Yep.
So
That's
you can
dope,
see
dude.
that even there, I mean, the amount of equipment, the training, the expertise that kind of go into this, it's just mind blowing. Like I said, it's a very small version of the Olympics, and yeah, it's just wild. I'm very just happy with how veterans are getting treated a lot better rather than just being given scraps and stuff like that. So yeah, Brady, please keep that in mind with whatever level you're in to support this. I actually got to talk to the, I might mess up his title, the undersecretary to, I guess, one of the agencies, and he was in the monoski or bi-ski trying it out. So to realize like what goes into it. So that's my big thing that I've been training for the last year with the monoski, and then the last 4 years. So
looks fun.
Yeah,
It looks like a good time.
Yeah, Doug Collins is current Secretary of Veteran Affairs, and probably one of his undersecretaries, probably who you chatted with.
yes.
That's the VA. Dope.
Yep.
So as we get ready to wrap it up, I'm going to go first and then kick it over to Brady, and then Drew, you can take us out. I just want to throw another comment out there. Kathleen said Gucci Mane, the Eskimo is my favorite song. That's a good song. That's a good banger, man. I love Gucci Mane. I just first want to say condolences to my wife's family. Lost her grandma last Thursday. She passed away. Marlene was an amazing person. I've been married to my wife 21 years, and Marlene was truly like an actual biological grandma to me. I loved her very much, but also to all of Beth's other family members that are dealing with that loss. But 92 years is an amazing run, isn't it? And having, she had 3 children, I think 7 grandchildren, and like a ton of great grandchildren, and even 1 great grandchild. My name's AK Kamara, Republican National Committee man. You guys can follow me on TikTok at AK Kamara. You can also follow me over on Facebook, X, and Instagram at Real AK Kamara. This Saturday, I'm going to be up in Brainerd area at Craigins Resort for the 8th Congressional District Convention. I'm getting ready for basically our congressional districts are having all their conventions right now up until the end of the month. So if you're going to be out in, Craigins Resort for the 8th Congressional District, I'll see you there. Make sure that you guys hit the like button, share button. Thank you for all the amazing comments, especially coming out of Facebook today. Must have done something right to share it. But we always stream on Mondays from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. But I'll kick it over to you first, David. Where can people find you? And then when you're done, kick it over to Brady. But where can people find you? And you got anything coming up this weekend or this week? Or maybe David.
Yeah, I
Souza,
appreciate
he's been
that.
having-
I am not sure
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
difficulties, but you can find me at the Peruvian Gentleman on all my social media. And this weekend, I have a wedding I'm going to be going to, but then also Brandon Lake is going to be doing a con.
Brandon Lake is awesome. Cool.
Excellent. We got most of that. Brady, where can people find you? What last words for you? And thank you so much.
Oh, thank you all once again. This has been Brady O'Neill, Republican endorsed candidate for Minnesota State Senate, representing District 52. Go to my website, follow me on Facebook, Brady for State Senate, Instagram, at We the People Live in a Society, X BDAO Neil, and TikTok at Vader Talk. This weekend, campaign fundraising event. We are hosting a conceal carry permit class. So if you don't have your conceal, if you've been thinking about it, if you need to renew it, now is the time. Or if not, if you just want to be surrounded by some true patriots, want to contribute to my campaign, that'd be much appreciated. You can see more info for that on my Facebook, and I hope to see you all there. Thanks again.
Excellent. And I was told I got to share one more thing. So I try not to talk about myself, but I was put on the calendar for this year for the VA, the National Disabled Veteran Sports Clinic, as Mr. March. I got Mr. March. It was actually the first month, because it does take place on March, or at the end of March, April. So yeah, that's me on the bi-ski last year going down the race course. So that was pretty awesome. I'm just on top of the world right now when it comes to that stuff. So you can find me on X. I posted that here at Drew Outstanding. And then, yeah, I'm sharing more stuff on there, even less things. And I'm kind of sharing it with my YouTube now, which is Operation Drew Outstanding on there. So now people know that's me a little bit more. So that's where I got my ski stuff. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, David O'Neill. Thank you so much. We got AM in the background putting up these information, Culture Warriors Unchained. Yeah, check us out on, like AK said, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Rumble, on all the platforms where you're just listening. All that's cool. We're having a great time. Thank you so much. I'm sure David would send us out of here with a great message, but we're going to go for now. So have an outstanding week, and we'll see you in 7 days.
Culture Warriors Unchained, we're the real entertainment.